So I know that I badmouth Yang Xiao quite a bit, and I also kill her a lot. So let's talk about why I think it's not Elia, Emerald, or even Osmond who's the most offensive character in the series, but rather why Yang Xiao Long is the most offensive character in RWBY. Now I want to preference this by saying that I actually quite like Yang. She remains up there with Weiss and Crow amongst my favourite characters, but that ranking considers Volume 5 non-canon, even if it's more canon than Big Bertha. Anyway, to avoid just doing a blanket rip RWBY apart video, I decided to compare Yang's depression arc to one of my favourite arcs in any anime, the almost just as short arc in GARO, the Carved Seal of Flames, more commonly referred to as GARO the Animation, in which Leon Luis, our protagonist, goes through similar problems and recovers rather quickly. Leon's progress to return to who he was, but better, is far superior to Yang's, and I think this would be a little more fun to do. Also, gameplay logic, that guy on my channel is Twins of Vegeta, this one's for you. Kinda. Now, let's set up both, because this is where I have to say RWBY does this job quite well. Yang goes through some turmoil, thinking she attacked a guy for no reason, before she's snapped out of it by the Battle of Beacon that she feels responsible for causing. She shows up to protect Blake-kun, fails, and it gets her arm cut off. Afterwards, she learnt that she was cogged out for the rest of it while everyone was fighting, learns that Hero, who I'm pretty sure she never shared a single line of dialogue with, but I may be mistaken, is dead, and then has to deal with Blake running away. So that's a feeling of failure, a feeling of causing the deaths of so many, the loss of her arm, and her best friend leaving her that she has to deal with. Conversely, Leon has similar, but somewhat different stipulations. Now, as I'll assume you guys don't know Leon, but know RWBY, as at least 400 of my subscribers knows what the heck RWBY is, I'll explain Leon for a moment. GARO takes place in a world where demonic entities known as horrors live, and they can only be killed by Makai Knights, extremely powerful chosen warriors with unique abilities and weapons. If that sounds a little suspiciously similar to you, just know that the original Tokusatsu came out in 2005, 8 years before RWBY. Leon's mother was burned at the stake during childbirth, where his father, the Makai Knight Zoro, saved him and gave him the GARO armor. It's something he uses to claim revenge on his mother's killer while generally being an edgy cuck. Nobody likes him, except his father and cousin. During the final episodes of Part 1, Leon loses control while seeing a vision of his mother dying, painfully, on a stake. Youch. And he turns into Lost Soul Beast GARO. Lost Soul Beast GARO goes on to slaughter a shitload of people, annihilate large chunks of the kingdom of Aliante, puts his entire family in danger, and finally he loses the GARO armor that symbolizes his vengeance, rage, mother, and his very reason for existing, as is taken by his cousin. So he feels responsible for mass deaths, nearly allowing the villain to get away and cause more destruction, has his sole purpose for life taken, and is then beaten and left to die by his cousin and father due to his inability to live up to the morals and code he was left to live on. Then he throws himself off a cliff. That's a little dark. However, he survives and is taken to a home with a kind-hearted family of farmhands. So here we basically have an identical setup. Yang and Leon have gone through some really bad shit and are now stuck in bed, not wanting to do anything, having lost things that felt responsible for letting down their families, morals, and the people they were meant to protect. Now what happens? Well, in Yang's case we get a 6-month time skip. Now you'd expect her to have gotten better over this time, but she doesn't. Yang's just as bad as before. We get a couple shots showing her mind-numbing boredom, and when confronted with a new arm to replace her current nub and lost ember Celica, she declines it, and tries to smile off her problems. This gives us a very clear understanding that she is going through at least some kind of depression, and isn't ready to get back to a normal life. We also learn that Taiyang is incredibly supportive, and likely gives her constant advice, motivational blabberings, and yada yada because he doesn't know how to deal with this problem, like a real parent, usually. This is added to later, where we see she is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. First though, we see she's gotten used to this life, but she's thoroughly bored, which is in line with her claim of being a thrill seeker in Volume 2. Her PTSD thing comes in when she drops some glass and has a flashback to the moment she lost her arm. It's not really shown very much, but that's the implication. These are all primary symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder: vivid images, remembering the event, and being emotionally numb. On that first note, next episode we get this fantastic dream sequence that tells us all we need to know. She's haunted by what happened, another symptom is shown, and that's reliving the event in vivid nightmares. She feels helpless and like she can't do anything, and she wakes up in the middle of the night. This is fantastic. However, then what happens next? Yang gets a reminder of her traumatic event from her dad. Then she laughs about it. She gets a mildly motivating speech, and then the next morning she's totally fine and has a new arm. And no, I don't mean she's ready to try again. I mean, the next time we see her, she seems to have barely changed. She's perfectly fine. And throughout Volume 5, she shows she's basically fine. And no, her punching this guy out for touching her hair isn't a sign that she's not fine. Oh look, here's Junior. Oh, bye Junior. Let's quickly run through Beyond Blue's PTSD checklist. Does she have unsettling memories, flashbacks, or dreams of the event? Yes, she does. Have you experienced at least 2 of these? Having trouble remembering important parts of the event, having negative beliefs about yourself, others, or the world, constantly blaming yourself for the problem, constantly feeling negative or angry, feeling less interested in things you enjoy, and having trouble with feeling positive emotions. Yes, she has negative beliefs about herself and about Blake. She's less interested in thrill-seeking or life in general. She's constantly seen negative, and has trouble feeling positive outside of this one laugh. One could even say she might not remember it right. I mean, the 2 times we've seen her having flashbacks was just a symbol and a cut, and then this scene, which is really inaccurate. Has she been experiencing at least 2 of these? Difficulty sleeping, being easily angered, trouble concentrating, recklessness, feeling on guard, or being easily startled? Yes, she has difficulty sleeping, and clearly shows difficulty concentrating on anything given a persistent lack of interest in things. And has she been experiencing this for over a month? Well, 6 is slightly higher than 1, so yes, she has PTSD, at least based on this criteria. Now, Volume 5 tries to make it seem like she's developed, but here she fires her arm, laughs again about another reminder of a traumatic event, and then somehow it tries to sell this moment where she lets go of her arm when Mercury grabs it as an emotionally significant one, but no! She dropped it, and she also looks like a coward. These 2 just look like morons. You have guns! What are you doing? If you think I skipped over anything, really all I skipped was pointless flavor text. Over the course of literally 2 episodes that barely feature her, she completely gets over her problems and barely develops. All she has done is lessened her amount of jokes and gotten over looking for her mum, despite how barely important that was to her recovery arc. Basically, she goes over one of the most serious psychological disorders amongst people going through a major stressor, which in psychological terms is really bad, in basically no time. Now, I know that people like saying that she got better over the 6 months, but she clearly fucking didn't. Look at this. Rather, all that happens is that twice she goes completely backwards from what PTSD sufferers go through when facing a reminder of that traumatic event. She gets a speech that seems so in character for a Thai that, I mean, really? You are fucking crazy if you think Thai never once said anything near this level during that 6-month time period. And you know what PTSD sufferers go through? Well, if it lasts more than a few weeks, they often need heavy support from friends and family, a minimization of stressing events and reminders of a traumatic event. Oh, good job there, Ty. Talk to a doctor or health professional, a mental health professional too. Yeah. Therapy. Sometimes they even need drug treatments. People suffering PTSD sometimes have even needed counseling. Because, you know, some PTSD sufferers feel a need to commit suicide. Now I say this with no comedic edge, no intent to be funny, but with complete seriousness. PTSD is amongst the most serious of psychological disorders. It is very important to socialize with others and get support from professionals. Now, to leave the seriousness for a moment, what the hell? She gets basically none of this. Only one family member cares at all, and he even says this.
Well, I guess you lost some brain cells along with that arm.
That's not helpful. That's horrible. We've not seen her get any therapy, and if she did over the 6-month period, she wouldn't be as bad as someone only a few weeks into the disorder. She'd be at least a little better. This is why I think Yang, or specifically her arc, is one of the most, if not the most, the fucking offensive things in RWBY. Just, okay, Ilya might be a bad guy homosexual who turns good guy due to the power of love. Okay. Emerald might be an evil homeless supervillain. Alright. And Osmond might be so badly written he offends everyone who ever wrote a story. But Yang actively betrays an extremely serious disorder as something that can be gotten over with just a couple good words and one night. There's no implication that this happens over time. There's no signs that she's struggling. She doesn't even show up until 4 episodes after she puts her arm back on. She's been training the whole time. She's not shown to have to get used to her life progressively. She just suddenly is okay. This is horrible. It's absolutely disgraceful, and I feel no guilt in saying this betrayal is downright offensive. RWBY is one of, if not the largest web series of all time, short of Red vs. Blue, and potentially Death Battle. Maybe. Maybe not. And most people in the US, Asia, Europe, or Australia commonly watch YouTube, or just use the internet in general. Most people are going to be exposed to RWBY in one way or another. It's not only offensive, but a waste of potential character development. She develops less than Kirito. She goes from jokey, fun, protective of her friends and family to slightly less jokey, slightly less fun, and protective of her friends and family. The primary goal of protecting RWBY remains the same, and by the end of Volume 5, she just suddenly finds herself okay with Blake again. Jesus Christ. Yeah, he had a better character arc. Now, onto GARO. Yeah, remember we're going to be talking about that. This is where I get to be a little happier. In GARO, we get to see Leon dealing with depression, as shown by his general disinterest in the world and resting I don't give a flying fuck face. Now, depression may have a lot of similarities to PTSD on the surface, but I don't want to bust out my old psychology textbook and copy the DSM-5 to explain the difference.
That's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, by the by, edition 5.
However, it is just as, if not potentially even more serious than PTSD, simply due to the higher amount of people suffering from depression. It can also lead to suicide, and as someone who's had to deal with depression, nowhere near as bad as Leon's, seriously, not even close, but I can still relate to this more, and I feel way more touchy about how it's dealt with in fictional representations. So let's talk about what happens. First, after he tries to kill himself, he's found by this girl Lara and taken to her family's home. Here, he's generally disconnected from the world. He doesn't seem to care for what he's being told, he's just not happy. Now, most people around me seem to think that after a failed suicide attempt, a depressed person would just try again, but that's not often the case. In the real world, most psychologists will tell you that people going to commit suicide don't actually want to die, but rather just don't want to live anymore, and when surviving an attempt, they would rarely try again so soon after. As such, Leon's first words asked about why he was saved, and we don't actually receive the explanation immediately. We learn that 10 days has passed before he talked. He just kind of spent time laying around not knowing what to do. This firmly establishes that a week or more has passed before he was even ready to speak again, and the moment he does, he explains how he doesn't care what happens to him. Here we're introduced to the family he's with. A peppy, cynical old woman, a quiet old man, a coy, somewhat stressed single mother, and an overly kind girl. Several shots later on the next day, we are also shown that they're very hard-working, thankful for what they have, and they don't ask for any special treatment. Leon spends some time just walking with Lara without much reaction to her joy, naivety, and youthful happiness. This is important, as unlike Yang, who spent time with someone who is just an older, more awkward Yang, Leon is someone who represents everything he didn't have and wanted as a child. Case in point, his father is someone who'd always ask for more. He'd always want more money, and he'd always want special treatment for being a Makai Knight. At least that's how Leon saw him. It's not really the case, but that's what he perceived. He was not quite this family who's just happy with what they have. They don't ask for any more. Also, Leon is a Makai Knight, and that role requires training from a young age. He lacks everything that Lara has. She is just literally symbolic of what he doesn't have. There's no way to go around that. Where he gets tired, she still has energy. Where she likes to see pretty things and marvel at the surroundings, Leon doesn't give a shit. He lacks an interest in this world. This immediately sets up a relationship between the two, and why Lara will be able to help get an emotional response from Leon. Whereas Leon would often berate his father for not helping him in a fight, Lara doesn't ask for any help at all when she's farming. These little things help highlight the characters, their relationships, and why Leon would change as a person. There are too many contrasting things to talk about right now, with this shot where they walk in the same direction, looking at different paths, is basically the whole thing summed up in one shot. We also get to see Leon's first real emotion. When learning that Lara's father was killed by wolves, he immediately acts out wondering if it was a horror, connecting both him with Lara and how they've lost a parent that has affected their lives greatly with their deaths, Lara and that it lessened her family's lifestyle, and Leon and that it left him barely able to have a childhood, but it also shows his connection with his old life is still rather strong. This is already more stuff to talk about in Yang's side of the comparison, and this is the first 10 minutes of his arc. One of the most important things as well is that Leon's recovery arc is clearly shown to take place over days, weeks, possibly months, both in the consistent passage of time and other scenes showing his father and cousin fighting horrors. We see Leon watching Lara and her family over a period of time doing hard work and still smiling. Yay. That's something he has never done. He doesn't quite understand it really. It's also established that some time has passed with him essentially doing the same thing every day, and Leon points it out. Now this is representative of how he felt about in his previous life. Every day he'd wake up, deal with his father, kill some horrors, go to sleep. When asking Lara if she ever gets bored with this, she returns by asking him that's why he's traveling.
Oh, he's not actually traveling, it's just what her family thinks. Bit hard to just open up and say, oh yeah, I was just a depressed guy who jumped off a cliff and you saved me.
And this strikes a chord with Leon. She replies that she can't leave though. It's the land their father had and they've worked too much on it. This connects with Leon's inability to escape his life as GARO. It's the role his mother left for him. He's gone too far with it to leave now. This does actually bring a smile to Leon's face, although it's a brief one. And it's not immediate fucking relief. We even see now that he sits with the family during dinner. This shows that he's slowly getting closer and recovering. Wow! Development! However, he's clearly not completely alright with being part of the family. He still sleeps separate from them after all. An important scene happens the next day where we see Leon fail to get with the farmhand lifestyle, and he has to be shown how to make an irrigation canal. This helps to separate the two lives of Leon, that of the farmhand he's not used to, and that of the knight that doesn't understand the lifestyle of the lesser fortunate. Once again, this also helps distinguish him from Lara. One is only a fighter, while the other one has more important skills for survival in the world she's in. The important line from the grandfather here is this, which is a part of Leon we've seen throughout the series. He just relies on brute force and rarely ever skill, which changes after this arc. He's also worn out as fuck. We see over more time progression, Leon has come to develop to be used to this life, and he's become a valuable member of the family. It's mostly shown in that dialogue, but with the family's support, Leon has managed to overcome his loneliness and recover as a person. All without them even needing to know his name. Oh yeah. The kicker? This all happened in one episode! And not only that, it manages to not feel rushed or badly paced, and there's a few simple reasons. This episode establishes the characters and focuses solely on their relationships. It focuses on the contrast between Leon in this life, Leon's father in this family, and most importantly Leon and Lara herself. One of the most integral parts of this is the consistent passage of time. I've mentioned it before and will probably mention it again. I will definitely mention it again. We see this happen over weeks, possibly months. The morning, the day, the night, the sunrise, the sunset. We see snippets of Leon's adaptation to his life. Everything we need to know, but nothing that's out of character or out of place. It's fantastically put together, and generally one of my favorite episodes in any anime. So much time and care was taken to portray Leon's recovery as gradual and slow, showing each part that brings him to become one with the family under the constraints of being a 24 episode anime. Oh yeah, GARO's only 24 episodes. RWBY is 66. It's not even done. That is a harsh difference, and one that highlights just how much better GARO's writing is. The following episode contains significantly less Leon. It focuses more on the characters who are also important but aren't him. But it does have Leon meeting with Emma Guzman. This scene is important to show just how much Leon has come. Now, Emma was a previous buddy of his. She fought alongside him, his father, and his cousin. While Leon still acts to Emma like he did, he's significantly less cold and harsh, and he's more accepting of Alfonso, his cousin, being the new GARO in his place. That's all for him for a bit. Next time he shows up is 3 episodes later, but unlike Yang, this is acceptable. We've seen the main layout for his life put down, and more time is required to set up Alfonso and Herman's stories. And it's still less time than Yang took off. This episode starts by establishing that there's a watchdog center near his home. A watchdog center is a safe haven from bad shit, if you didn't know. Later, he meets up with Alfonso for the first time in a while, and this is one of the most integral parts of Leon's arc. Although, to be fair, basically everything is. Leon still feels bad for what happened, and he also apologizes. However, unlike before, here he actually acknowledges that he's not fit to be a Makai Knight, and understands what his father told him. Now, prior to this, Herman Luis, or Zoro, no, not that one, not that one either, but good cultural knowledge, there you go, explained to him on several occasions why Makai Knights fight. They are protectors, and this was something Leon couldn't get. He was just a vengeful machine. But now he certainly does, and he's become a better person. Here, he reaffirms his arc. Before he was a wanderer with no goal, but now that he's found something more important than revenge, he wants to protect it. But it's too late for him to do so as GARO.
結局、我が身に起きてみない限り、私たちは本当には何も理解できないかもしれないな。
でも、だからこそ守りたいと思うのかもしれない。
That's something I have a lot too. Oh hey, and he cracked the joke. This is important too, as it shows how he's developed from being Superman Sasuke to being a legitimate human being. The next night, a horror attacks. Oh shit. And Leon fails to kill her because he's no longer a Makai Knight. He runs to get help from Alfonso, but by the time he returns, he learns that his family has been killed. He told them to go to the Watchdog Center, but their stubborn need to save their cross made them go back and get incinerated. In the wreckage, Leon finds Lara's body, disoriented, forgetting seemingly about everything they went through, and she dies in his arms. This is heartbreaking, and it has parallels to Leon before his arc. The family's stubbornness to what their lost family member left them just got them all incinerated, burnt, turned to nothing but ash. Like with Leon losing control and incinerating people because of his mother. Their rejection of the Watchdog Center parallels Leon's loss of GARO, rendering him unable to protect anyone. And ultimately, his failure in this moment leads to the next episode, where it comes to a head. His character changes here, seen through one of my favorite fight scenes ever. Why is it so? Well, because it's not just a flashy fight scene for the sake of it, RWBY. It's an emotionally driven, very important, and character-developing fight. Leon really does change. He goes from moody, brooding, way too serious, and extremely angry, to more open to discussion, far more driven, bit more of a hero, and he fights for protecting people instead of just for revenge. We see the moment where he literally kills his demons, and it concludes with Leon reuniting with his GARO armor. ending a fantastic character arc.
God, this animation's so good.
So, what did RWBY do wrong? Well, Rooster Teeth would tell you that an arc in someone's house would be boring, but not only is that everything Weiss did, but it's plain bullshit. Is it because of the expectations of a hungry fan base? Oh hell no. GARO in Japan is widely considered one of the greatest tokusatsu shows ever. And you know where the animation was made? Japan. Was it budget? Hell no. Volume 4 clearly has higher production values compared to the episodes I've talked about in GARO. Was it time constraints? No. GARO is a 24 episode anime, and GARO's episodes devoted to Leon only managed 72 minutes, while RWBY's Volume 4 had 210 minutes and 18 seconds. Even if we go with the whole 12 episode part 2 of GARO, it manages to be 288 minutes, which is in the same ballpark as RWBY, and far less if I include Volume 5. And, you know, GARO's telling a more complicated story. No matter how you spin it, there's one thing that made Yang's arc so shitty. Incompetent writing. Some people might say, oh, well, that's just because the writers don't know what they're doing. Well, yeah, that's a fault of the show. Oh, the directors didn't know what they were doing. Yeah, that's a fault of the show. Oh, they had time constraints. Well, they didn't fucking have to. You could have just made the episodes way beforehand and put them out afterwards. I think that's what you might have done anyway. I don't know. Just an idea. Maybe you should get the fucking episodes done, and maybe you should fucking animate your fight scenes and put the camera in afterwards and not... Gee, never mind. Yang's arc is plagued with writing that has no idea what to do. Leon's successful arc can be boiled down to 8 primary points. Number 1, the passage of time is constant, consistent, and prevalent. Time passes quickly over the episode, but over a long period of time in the show. It helps to ensure that the process feels like it takes a long time. Yang has a little of this, but the way it's done feels like 1 or 2 days pass, while Leon feels like weeks or months, as it should. Number 2, Leon is exposed to new situations in a different context than what he's used to. These require him to adapt and change to become a different person. With Yang, however, she's exposed to someone she's known her whole fucking life, and changes because of something that sounds like a line Tai Yang would say to her every night before bed, while Leon is exposed to something completely new and very different to what he's used to. Number 3, it's very easy to understand and explain why Leon is going through these changes. It makes it simple to grasp but complex in nature. It's simple, but you know, because he's meeting new people and living a new life, he changes as a man, but psychologically it's very complex. However, Yang, it's kind of confusing why she changes. She just puts on a new arm and suddenly she's the same, but slightly more edgy, for no reason. Number 4, we see a new side of Leon that makes him more layered. We've never seen Leon smile, and we've never seen him laugh. We've never seen him have as much a good relationship beforehand, and that adds depth to his character, and accentuates how he's changed. Yang does get a little of this. We've never seen her outright glum or apathetic, but we only get 1 episode of that before she's laughing and joking like a numbnut. Number 5, every single important moment of Leon's arc is shown to us, and there are many of them. There are many moments of Leon's arc that one can point out as integral to his change. All of them are shown to us. With Yang, we only see one thing after the establishment of her issues, and that's a speech from Tai Yang that fixes everything immediately. If that's the only thing that was important to her change, then yeah, that's fucking offensive for one thing, and that is some horrid writing. Number 6, there's a lot of symbolic representation of the differences between his current life and his old one. A lot of callbacks to the old one keep him connected to it. Yang gets 1 callback, not counting trauma-induced hallucinations or dreams, and nothing is symbolic whatsoever. In fact, the contrast is barely noticeable as it vanishes in moments. Number 7, scenes are used over time to show how he changes in increments. From quiet and not talking, to confused and apathetic, to accept him, to motivated to help, to genuine happiness, and finally to becoming a proper protector of the people. That's probably most evident in the movie sequel, but also quite noticeable in the rest of the series. Yang we see quiet, apathetic, then normal, and normal but slightly edgier. Yeah. Finally, it culminates in a satisfying, awesome, important, and emotional climax that puts everything together into a finished puzzle as we see just how far he's come. Connecting each little scene beforehand, including ones where we see how he's changed by interacting with old familiar faces, into a coherent story with an actual end that's satisfying and climactic. Yang has no climax to her arc, and no, I don't consider the Raven argument one, as Raven is barely a player in her arc. There's no build up to any climax, there's no real end. Instead, it just cuts off halfway and goes straight to her change like it was all fucking laggy. Yang also adapts way too quickly. I mean, we see Leon has to learn over time, and he originally struggles, but gets better, while Yang adapts to having a whole new limb and also losing a whole limb completely off screen. She's just fine when we see her again, she gets a new arm. And I know what the common playground counter-argument is, and what it would be in the comments of this video. Oh, Yang's arc was not important, but Leon's was necessary for the plot. Well, actually, fucking no. Yang's arc is essential for what happens in the hesitantly named finale of Volume 5. If Yang didn't go through her arc, she wouldn't have been there to help the team, Weiss wouldn't be there to help Jean and would rather just be at Atlas again, and Raven would not have gotten the relic in an attempt to get off of Salem's radar. Wait a minute, what? Yang's arc may have felt unnecessary in Volume 4's story, sure, but with the advent of Volume Herpes, it's fucking essential that it happen. Else the heroes would have lost a relic and be so far up shit creek they've practically reached the arse crack. No matter how you spin it, there's no excuse for Yang's arc being sloppy. If you blame the writers as an excuse, then no, that's not an excuse, that's the exact problem. The writers completely fucked up. And there's no excuse for that. This was a majorly missed opportunity, and I mean aim for the goalpost and kick the ball to the Andromeda Galaxy missed. This is just atrocious, and it's not because it'd be impossible arc, no. It's not because it'd be boring, it's not because it'd be pointless. That's why I brought GARO in. It wasn't boring, it wasn't pointless, it wasn't impossible. It was easy to do. And if people say, oh, well, if you think it's so bad, why can't you do it better? Well, yeah, I could. I could do it like GARO did it. GARO did it better. Really, the reason that it was so bad was because Rooster Teeth couldn't be bothered to write a satisfying arc about post-traumatic stress disorders and the scars of battle. Rooster Teeth don't care for the quality of their writing. They do not care for the arcs of their characters. Yang's not the only one who gets this. Same with Oscar. He didn't want to go. There was one line, and then suddenly he was ready to go. Off screen. What is wrong with you guys? Why do you always feel the need to show all your development either being off screen or having no impact? I really pray that Volume 6 fixes this shit. Volume 6, if you can write a single good character arc, I'll be happy. And no, I don't count Weiss as a good character arc. I count that as an okay character arc. It's really not hard to be the best character arc in a show with less arcs than a one-dimensional figure. And that'll be all, guys. I'm Nemesis Bloodwright, Lord of Shadows, and I'm signing off once again. This is fucking way too long.